Hey there guys, this is Cole. Welcome back to another movie review. I gotta make this review a little short, like maybe a 15-minute review at the longest, because I actually got to be somewhere today. But today I figured that since I'm reviewing more horror movies, and not just horror movies, I'm also reviewing kids movies for October, but one set on Halloween that can be watched in October. I figured today I might as well review the 1998 movie Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Now, why am I reviewing this movie in particular? Well, a YouTuber I really like, Cody Leach, he has a video planned this October 31st called 31 on 31 The Living Dead. And in that video, he is going to rank 31 on October 31st, 2025. With that 31 on 31 video, he's going to be ranking 31 zombie movies together. And this movie and Train to Busan, which I recently reviewed, are going to be some of the movies on that list. So, you know, I'm not going to get a chance to review all 31 of the movies on the list, but I'll at least get to review a couple. But, yeah. So, what is the plot to Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island? The plot of the movie is as follows. The Mystery Gang reunite and visit Moonscar Island, a remote island with a dark secret. Daphne wants more than just a villain in a costume, and they get more than they ever expected. Zombies. And more. So, that's basically the plot synopsis to the movie. It's a rather simple plot, so yeah. Now, Scooby-Doo, it's a property that I'm pretty sure everyone knows what it is at this point. I mean, how could you not? It was a cartoon it was a TV show by Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Was a popular Hanna-Barbera cartoon from the 1960s. And the show was so popular that it sold many toys. They made some more TV shows of it after the original show ended, and multiple direct-to-video movies. And of the direct-to-video movies, and just movies in general, yes, I would definitely say this is the best Scooby-Doo movie for reasons I'm going to discuss in the review. So, how was this movie received when it came out? Well, when Scooby-Doo was at the peak of its popularity in the 1990s from the toys and merchandise, Warner Bros. Decided they wanted to make a direct-to-video movie in order to get a huge success. And how was this movie received when it came out? Well, when Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island was released on VHS in the U.S. on September 22nd, 1998, it received praise from critics and audiences for its animation, visuals, and storytelling. Now, as for my reaction to the movie, yeah, this is a great movie. And Scooby-Doo was definitely a property that I did grow up with. When I first saw this movie, I would like to say, if I'm remembering correctly, I think I was around either 8 or 9 years old when I first watched this movie on VHS tape, because my grandma had it on VHS tape, and I've been a big fan of it ever since then. And now, here's the thing I find weird. Many people love this movie and consider it the best Scooby-Doo movie, but for whatever reason, it's only stuck on DVD and VHS. It's never had a Blu-ray. It's never had a Blu-ray release, which I don't understand, because I mean, with how celebrated this movie is, like, and everyone praising it as the best Scooby-Doo movie, you would have thought that this movie would have had a Blu-ray release, but it's free on YouTube in a 21 video playlist, and because I don't have a VHS player here, I decided to rewatch the movie as it was free on YouTube, and I had not seen, well, free on YouTube in a playlist, and besides, it had been quite a few years since I had last watched this movie, and yeah, I think the movie still holds up really well. So without further ado, let's get into my review. So the movie starts off where the Mystery Gang, Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, Daphne, Velma, and Fred, they're basically chasing down a monster, and they eventually get the monster in the trap, and like the typical Scooby-Doo formula, it's a guy in a costume, and then, you know, not long after that, we cut to a scene where Daphne is inside a news building and is being interviewed on TV, because we find out that this is like a news program, and basically Daphne gives the backstory that she gives the backstory that it was fun to hunt to solve mysteries with the gang, but considering the fact that it was only people wearing monster costumes all the time. It kind of got boring unmasking for a while, so her and the gang split up and went off to do their own thing. And Daphne has her own TV show now, and she described her story on there, which I thought was cool. But then we cut to Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, who basically work as security guards at a place. But of course, I'm pretty sure, like you can guess, we all know Scooby and Shaggy. They like to eat a lot of food, and while Scooby-Doo and Shaggy have a job role as a security guard, of course they screw up their job because they eat a bunch of food that they're not supposed to in a room. The boss catches them, and the boss fires them. But then again, that's Shaggy and Scooby, so what else can I expect? But then the Scooby gang reunite together, and Velma basically tells Daphne that there's an island called Moonscar Island, a remote island that for 200 years, a bunch of mysterious, unexplained disappearances have been happening, and Daphne's intrigued, and she's like, finally, sounds promising, let's go to this island and investigate. And they do that throughout the movie. But they basically get a lift from a ferry because there's a guy who basically drives a ferry to get them there. And I like the scene when Scooby-Doo and this is early on in the movie, but I like the scene when Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, they fall into the water off the ferry boat and they're chased by alligators. And then there's a fisherman voiced by Mark Hamill, who's really upset with Scooby-Doo and Shaggy that they got in the way of his fishing. Despite how I feel about him as a person nowadays, which I'm not going to get into, voice acting wise, I do think that Mark Hamill is rather good in the movie. But then Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and the whole Scooby gang, mystery gang, arrive on Moonscar Island, and they basically meet two girls by the name of Simone, a yellow-haired chick, and a girl named Lena, who basically have a house. They basically have a house by this property, and Lena notifies Shaggy that there's a bunch of cats there, and Shaggy lies, saying that Scooby-Doo's great with cats, but when he arrives, we all see that, that ended up being a lie, because Scooby's a dog, he really does not do well with cats. And there's a Gardner character, too, who does play a role in the movie, which we'll get to, who basically is on the property. But then Daphne is talking to the owner of the house named Simone, and she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry that our dog was out of hand. We should have held on to him better." She says, "Hi, I'm Daphne, the one that airs the TV program." And then Simone says, "We do not have a television here on the island," and stuff like that. And the reason that the whole Scooby gang decide to go to the island is because they hear that the house is haunted. And they basically ask Simone, Daphne asks Simone, "Hey, can I do some recording for my TV show?" And she's like, "Of course." And she lets him into the house. And because Shaggy and Scooby like food, Simone, the owner of the house, she agrees to let them have the kitchen if it'll keep Scooby away from the cats and stuff like that. And one thing I really like about this movie is how it switches up the formula, because with all the other Scooby-Doo... Now, granted, do not get me wrong, as much as I like a lot of the other direct-to-video Scooby-Doo movies, a lot of it is the same, to be honest, where it's just they unmask a guy. Here, I like how with this movie, the zombies are actual zombies, which are in the title of it, but I'm sure most people have seen this movie. But anyways, getting back to the review, Daphne and Velma are filming the TV show, and the mystery gang, including Velma, she basically tells Daphne to slow down the camera, Fred, because they think they saw a ghost on the camera. Well, Daphne does, and they zoom in on the picture, and they basically see the silhouette of a ghost of a captain named Captain Moonscar, who was on the island, 200 years ago. And then early on in the movie, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, there's like this green light in the air, and then they basically see like a zombie pirate, and then they freak out, they run away, and the Scooby gang then tell Fred, Daphne, Velma, and stuff like that, and even the gardener, but he's not buying what they're saying, and Fred's like, well, are you sure you saw a real zombie? And then Shaggy said, oh, we know a real zombie when we see one. But then later on in the movie, a bunch of zombies are on the island, and the zombies end up chasing Scooby-Doo and the mystery gang, and it's they basically have to survive. And I like the part when Daphne she basically sees like the body of a zombie laying on the ground, and Fred just thinks that, oh, it's just a guy in a mask, because Fred is not the type of character that believes in the supernatural. He believes in logical explanations, but eventually Fred accidentally pulls off the head of the zombie, and he freaks out, and then they throw it at each other, and then eventually on the ground, and then near the end of the movie, we learn that Lena and Simone, the two female owners of the house, well, there's a twist to them that when I first saw this movie, I didn't expect. And that whole twist is that Lena and Simone, the two owners of the house, basically have the key to immortality, because Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, they come across some dolls of Fred, Daphne, and Velma, basically voodoo dolls, and in the movie, we find out later that Lena and Simone, the two owners of the house who have the power to immortality, we learn that they basically have the power to immortality, and they can basically turn from cat people to full-on werewolves, which I thought, okay, that was cool. That was something a bit different. And then Scooby-Doo and Shaggy at the end of the movie, Shaggy-Doo, sorry. Like I said, we learned the backstory that these two women who basically have the power to immortality, we learned that 200 years ago, all of their crewmates were basically killed by Captain Moonscar, and then they decide to make a wish for immortality to have the power to get revenge on them, which they do, and we learned that for 200 years that these two immortal beings who look like humans during the daytime have basically been luring people to the island for 2 centuries as traps. And we basically learned that, remember the guy who I said was on the ferry boat earlier, the ferry boat rider? We learned that he was in on it too, and he's a werewolf too. And then at the end of the movie, the whole Scooby gang, mystery gang, at the end of the movie, they managed to defeat the bad guys, and they go home safely. So yeah. Now, I know I didn't go super in depth with this review, but to be honest, as much as I do like this movie, I don't really think it's a review I have to go too in depth with, because I'm pretty sure that most Scooby-Doo fans have seen this movie, or at least know of it. So yeah. Anyways, guys, that was my review to Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, and I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my review, and we'll catch you guys for the next review later.